Have you ever known exactly why your child does something? Maybe they scream for attention or throw a tantrum to avoid their homework, and you know exactly why it is that they do it, but then you're still left wondering, okay, what do I do with that information? That's exactly what we're going to be covering today, because once you know what happens before and after a behavior, and you know why your child does what they do, your next step is to teach them a better way to get that same need met. Now, if you don't know the reason for your child's behavior yet, pause this video and go check out my previous one called Understanding Your Kid's Behavior. That will walk you through a step by step on what to do to find the reason for your child's behavior. If you already know it, let's dive into it. Here's the first thing to understand. You cannot just stop a behavior by telling your child, don't do that. If you don't believe me, I encourage you to look at your past history and ask yourself, when I have told my child to stop, how many times have they actually stopped? Or how many times have they stopped briefly and then done it again? The reason why this doesn't work is because behavior is communication. Good or bad, it's meeting a need. So when you stop a behavior without giving your child something else to do instead, you leave their needs unmet. And when their needs are unmet, that's going to lead to more frustration, more meltdowns, and more of the same behaviors that you are trying to avoid in this first place. That's why teaching an alternative or replacement behavior is so important. Alternative or replacement behavior, fancy words, simple concept. Tell them what to do instead. Think of it like this. Imagine that you are trying to lose weight and you go get a fitness coach, you go in, and they just taught you, stop eating. That's your plan. If that was true, you wouldn't be reaching out for a coach. You would just stop eating. But that's probably not what a fitness coach would tell you. They would tell you what to do instead. Instead of keeping cookies and cake in your cupboard, buy healthy snacks. Instead of sitting on the couch after work, go on a walk. So on and so forth. That's exactly what alternative behaviors are. We're not just stopping the old behavior. We're giving kids a better, more effective way to get what they want. So, just to be extra clear, in order to change your child's problem behaviors, you first need to know why they do it in the first place. Once you know that, you have to tell them what to do instead of the problem behavior. We call these alternative behaviors. And in order for them to work, they must be easier and faster than the problem behavior, and they must deliver the same outcome. I'm going to walk you through some examples. If your child screams for attention, teaching them to say, look at me, or tap on your arm is a good alternative behavior. It gives them the exact same thing back, attention from you, with an easier, faster way to get there. Here's another one. If your child throws things to avoid homework, teaching them to ask for a break is a good alternative behavior. It gets them away from the homework and it does it in a faster, easier way than throwing things. And here's one more. Say a child screams for help. Teaching them to say help or point to a help picture card is going to be an easier, faster way to get the help that they need in a much more appropriate way. The goal is not to stop the old behavior, it's to replace it with something that your child can actually use and that is more appropriate than what they're currently doing. If you only try to stop or suppress that behavior, your child is still left with the same needs. The 4 needs we talked about in my previous video: attention, escape, access, or sensory, and no way to get it. This will not work. But when you give your child an alternative behavior, you're giving your child a key to the exact same outcome without the meltdown, the hitting, or the screaming. So if you have figured out the reason behind your child's behavior, you are ready to give your child an alternative behavior that gives them the same thing. Here's what you can do this week. Number 1, match the reason. Always start with the reason. Start with the end in mind. Ask yourself this question: what was my child trying to get? Or what did they get? If they scream to avoid homework, the alternative might be asking, can I take a break? If they yelled for attention, the alternative could be tapping on your arm or saying, look at me. The new behavior has to get them the exact same thing that the old behavior did. And number 2, make it easier. Kids will always choose what works fastest and easiest. If screaming gets your attention in 2 seconds, But tapping your shoulder takes forever, then they'll scream. They'll go for the easiest alternative. So the alternative has to be quicker and simpler than the problem behavior. To make sure that you get these two steps right, ask yourself this question: is this alternative behavior faster and easier for my child to do to get what they want? If yes, good. If not, we have to try again. Let's go over some examples here. Now that I have my board, let's go over some examples. Say that mom is cooking. We have a child and mom is cooking, and the child starts saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy," and screaming. And what happens after the behavior is that mom stops cooking and gives the child attention. If we go back to what did the child get from this behavior was mom's attention, right? So here's our reason: attention. We ask what happened before, what happened after, and we get a reason between those four. So this one was attention. So for this instance, to have an alternative behavior for the mommy, mommy, mommy and screaming, we want an alternative that will give that child attention. We want the outcome to be the same. That's our step one, right? What's the reason? And match that reason. Okay, so we want to make sure that this alternative behavior gives the child attention. A good alternative behavior would be tapping mom on the shoulder, right? It would still give mom's attention to the child, and it's faster and it's easier and it gives them the same outcome. That's how we would know, right? Is the alternative behavior faster? Yes. If it's easier, yes. And if it gives the same outcome, good alternative behavior. Awesome. Next one. What happens before the behavior is that homework is presented. Part of the behavior is that the child walks away, slams the door, and cries. What they got after they did that behavior was time away from homework. Time away from homework sounds like escape or avoidance, right? Like they're trying to avoid something that is hard, overwhelming, boring, etc., etc. Okay, so what we need to get that child with that alternative behavior is escaping that homework, giving them time away from that something that they don't want to do. So a good alternative could be asking for a break instead of walking away, slamming the door, and crying. That is definitely faster to ask for a break. It's definitely easier than doing all of this, and it gives them the same outcome, which is time away from homework. So this is a couple of examples on how you go about implementing those two steps of matching the reason to your alternative behavior and making sure that it's faster and easier. So if you take one thing away from this video, let it be this: don't just try to stop a behavior. Instead, replace it, because every behavior is communication. And when you give your child a new, better way to get their needs met, you don't just reduce the meltdowns, tantrums, and power struggles. You build skills, confidence, and connection. And that is what brings long-term behavior change. That is what it is all about. So in my next video, I'll walk you through exactly how to teach and practice those alternative behaviors step by step. So make sure you don't miss it.